I'm Lee Coduti. I'm the executive director of the Southern California Brass Consortium. We are a professional brass ensemble here in Southern California. We are based in Long Beach, but we play anywhere you'd like us to play, from San Diego all the way up to Santa Barbara. And we provide high quality brass ensemble music for the enjoyment of the community. To learn a little bit more about the Southern California Brass Consortium, just listen to this interview. When did I fall in love with music, and why did I have to get involved with it? Well, there was always music being played in our home. Plus, there was, in the 60s, there was a lot of music on television, and they were advertising records on TV. So I was hearing all kinds of influences of music. Plus, my sister was 12 years older than I was. So I grew up with all the great tunes of the 50s and 60s on 45s. So I had, and my mother listened to classical, and my mother listened to easy listening. So from the beginning, I had a multifaceted understanding of all styles of music, and it just grew and grew and grew. And I always just gravitated to listening to records and listening to music. And I never really knew anything about music, but I knew what I liked and what I didn't like. And then it wasn't until the sixth grade, and well, then I started singing along with the records. And then the sixth grade that I realized that I could actually sing. So, yeah, so that's how I got my start in music. And it never waned after that. What was the path, and why do I love arranging music? So what I did was I was playing piano in a four-square church when I was 16, because I had enough facility to play in church. And we had little instrumental ensembles. And I said, wow, I have enough knowledge and I was probably 17, 18, 19 by that time. And I said, I can arrange for these little ensembles and write for them so that we have drums and we have a saxophone, and we have piano and we have a clarinet, and we have all that stuff. So that's how I got my start in arranging. They weren't very good. I didn't really get pretty good until I was about 21 or 22, where I was really figuring out what I was doing. But that's how I got my love of arranging. And then from there, in my mid 20s, I joined Pacific Chorale, and by the end of my 20s, I was doing a lot of their orchestration work with John Alexander and the Pacific Chorale. And then from there on, I just blossomed and did orchestrations for all kinds of people, and that's how I got my arranging chops. Trial and error. When did it go from an interest to an obsession that I had to do? Well, it's always been an obsession. I mean, are you talking about the arranging in particular? All right, the arranging in particular, it just developed naturally. I mean, but I was very lucky. And because I worked for Pacific Chorale, the people who played my arrangements were the Pacific Symphony. So there was nothing, and I was studying scores of Vaughan Williams, scores of Debussy, scores of Mahler, and I was understanding how instruments work together. So I was seeing everything in a much larger form. So I got used to writing for 60 instruments, and I got used to writing for full orchestra. And that was my cup of tea, and that's where the passion happened, because no matter what I wrote, as long as it was properly written, they could play it. So it was a very rewarding. I think of all the orchestrations that I've ever written, and it's probably over 100 at this point, I only have two that have never been played. So I'm a very lucky person in that everything I was doing was going right from my table to the stand and having people play it. Not many people get that luxury unless you're, going. And I was always an amateur. I was never really considered a professional. I was just somebody that did it and did it okay. And, that wasn't my main line of work. I had a day job. And music, I was just doing music at night. So it was not like my full-time thing. Like Charles Ives, he was an insurance salesman during the day and a composer at night. When did I first hear of the Southern California Brass Consortium? Why did I want to be part of it? Well, I actually started the Southern California Brass Consortium. I was working as a manager at a store called the Horn Guys in Lakewood Village, up at Lakewood and Carson. And I had all of these, and I had hired this young, very talented trumpet player to work with me at that store, and his name was Drew Ninmer. And we were sitting around one day, and I looked at him and I said, why don't we start a brass ensemble? We've got all these great young brass players. They really don't have groups to play in. I mean, they were doing small gigs. They were doing, bands, and they were doing side gigs, and they were playing, Christmas quartets everywhere, and they were doing ska bands and all that stuff. But I said, let's start a brass ensemble. He looked at me like, I said, are you sure? And I said, yeah. So I called my friend Hector Salazar, and I said, would you be interested in conducting this group? We don't have any money. And that's how we started. And that was in July of 2013. That was about 10 years, 2 months ago. And I think we had our first rehearsal about right now. I don't have the exact date, but it was this month, 10 years ago. We had our first rehearsal, and we started playing, and we had 26 in the group. We had 6 trumpets. At that time, we had 6 horns, 4 trombones, 2 euphoniums, 2 tubas, 5 percussionists, and a harp. And so we did a few rehearsals. And after about the third rehearsal, somebody said, well, why are we rehearsing? And I said, that's a really good point. So I think I scheduled our inaugural concert at the end of January. And that's how we started. I'll explain to you the different types of brass bands and then tell you why mine is it's not really unique. It's a different type of brass band. England has a huge history of brass bands. And that's because they used them in parades and everything, but they're a different formation and they use different instruments. They use E flat alto horns, they use different instruments, and their charts are written different. Like they'll have 9 cornets and 8 trumpets. I mean, so they're a whole different ball of wax, and their music is written differently than ours. It's arranged differently because they have a different set of instruments. So when we started the Brass Consortium, what we did was we said, let's just do an American style brass ensemble. So we used symphonic instruments. We used trumpets. We did not use any cornets. In place of the E flat alto horns, of course, we used French horns or horns. And so we built it more around an American model. And that's why it's a little unique. It's a very large brass ensemble. Somebody should check me on this, but I do think we are the largest professional brass ensemble in the United States. And so that's why we are unique. The other thing we are unique about is we arrange most of our own stuff. There's not anything written for an ensemble this size, so we write most of our own material. How are we different now than we were then? Well, we've always started off by doing themed concert. After the first inaugural concert, we've always done themed concerts. The issue came in writing for the group. We have approximately 4 to 5 arrangers working constantly on it. None of us were really experts in writing for brass ensemble. So we started out and we would do arrangements and we'd pass them around and see if they worked. Some things worked, some things didn't. And over the next 2 or 3 years, we would write a lot of arrangements and figure out what worked. Because remember, a lot of the things we were transcribing were orchestral pieces. So what do you do with the string parts? What do you do with the wind parts? What do you do with the flute parts? So we were giving those to the trumpets and wherever we could fit them. And some of the wind parts would go on the horns if they worked, but an octave down. So there was a lot of stuff that we were doing to feel out what we could do with the brass ensemble as a whole to get it to work. And our goal was, like if we were doing a film score, to try to get it to sound exactly as the original film score sounded. And sometimes we had to do some manipulations and didn't quite sound the same because we just don't have violins and winds. But for the most part, we have stayed with the model where we do theme concerts. For example, the concert coming up on Sunday is Let the Games Begin, and it's all sports-related music. So we are always trying to have a theme, which we go through. Every concert for this season and give you some details. Our first concert this Sunday is called Let the Games Begin, and it is just a concert celebrating all the themes from sports. We try to do a very wide view. So you caught me off guard just a little bit, but I think we're doing like Parade of the Charioteers from Ben-Hur. We're doing the NBC Sunday Night Football theme. We're doing some pieces written for the Olympics. We're doing Olympic Spirit that was written in 1986 by John Williams. We're doing the Arnaud, the original Bugler's Dream, that was the theme of the Olympics during the 60s. So we're doing some very eclectic stuff. We're doing a suite from the football film Rudy, called The Final Game. So we have tried to not just do one little genre. We're doing the theme, the fanfare for Rocky. So it's a very interesting, very eclectic bunch of pieces that all have some kind of connection to sports. The second concert we're doing, which is on December 3rd, is the Many Moods of Christmas. And every year we just try to we do new arrangements of Christmas tunes. For the example, this year we're doing a brand new arrangement of um, Parade of the Wooden Soldiers. And we're also doing a brand new arrangement of the Christmas Waltz. So every year we try to add 2 or 3 or 4 pieces to the repertoire. And we don't really pick that music until just before we do it. Also, this year, I mean, we have a special run out on November 11th. We're performing at the Cerritos Performing Arts Center, and we're doing an entire day of music in honor of the veterans. So we're doing a whole concert of patriotic music, and that is on November 11th at Cerritos Performing Arts Center. After the new year, we have our 10th anniversary concert, which is on January 28th, and we will play favorites of all. So what we do is we go to YouTube and we see how many views we've had on YouTube, and we go to SoundCloud, and then we ask people to tell us what is your favorite thing that we do. So we come up with about an hour's worth of music of audience favorites for our anniversary concerts. And I get up and I give a whole bunch of details about how many things we've done in 10 years. And it's kind of a fun concert. It's all really great music, a lot of film music. And then on Sunday, April 28th, we're doing Celebrating the Oscars, where we will present film music from films that have been either nominated for Oscars or won Oscars. So we also haven't picked that repertoire yet because we have to figure out what we're going to, some things we have to write. But we have about 100 movie pieces in our library, more than 100 movie pieces. So the movie concerts are always our most popular concerts because, we do everything from the current all the way back to the classics, even back to Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz. So we run the gamut of all kinds of things, but we do a lot of current films too. If there's a film by James Newton Howard that has just come out within the last few years, we work a lot with the film composers, and they allow us to transcribe their film music for the band. So it's always very interesting stuff, very, very well put together, we hope, and very well played. And that's our season. So there's 5 concerts coming up. We want them to just be surrounded in sound by the massive power of brass. I mean, it can be very delicate, it can be very loud, it can be very exciting. But it's fun that we can do all of this music and just do it with brass instruments. We have no strings, we have no winds. So we try to make the experience still as complete as possible. So you're hearing everything that you would normally hear without the brass ensemble when we do transcriptions of movie themes, especially. We also want them to experience a very wonderful ensemble, a brass ensemble, which is the colors and how we can do things. And, we can shove things into a brass instrument. We can shove mutes in there, or the horns do weird, interesting things with their hands. We can make different sounds with the instruments, the brass instruments. It's just not one sound. So there's a lot of flexibility with every brass instrument that we can do. Plus the percussion in the back, we have a whole gamut of percussion instruments, so we can do a very interesting percussive sound. And the harp also adds a lot of color. So we are hoping to always send the audience away with a unique musical experience, something they're not going to experience with any other ensemble. Yes, Hector Salazar, our conductor, let me talk about him, has been with us since day one. He got his education at Cal State Dominguez Hills, and then went on to get his master's at Cal State Long Beach, studied with the great Larry Curtis at Cal State Long Beach. He had been associated with the Chamber Orchestra of South Bay for over 30 years, of which he is now the conductor and artistic director. He's also a big musical conductor. I think Hector's conducted over 60 musicals in his life. So Hector's very capable, and we're very lucky to have him. And when we made the band, we don't really have any brass ensembles to really model ourselves at. So we modeled it a little more like an orchestra. So I have a concertmaster, and the first trumpet is our concertmaster, and he's Drew Ninmer, and Drew is phenomenal. Came from a very musical family. His mother and father were both music teachers. His brother is the arranger for the president's own Marine Band. And his sister and brother are both very fine musicians. So Drew brings a very high level of musicianship to our group in that lead chair position. And he also, maintains everything in the, makes sure the ensemble is sounding good at all times. So we have, and the rest of the musicians are all extremely accomplished because we push them to play things that their instruments really aren't meant to play. And, so they all handle it with great aplomb, and they're amazing, amazing people. And it's a very happy bunch of people. We're just happy to be there playing, happy to be there playing great music for the audience. And it's always exciting because we're pushing the envelope, always trying to do things that are really amazing. What do we look forward to when we're playing for the audience? Well, what we look forward to is to provide a new musical experience for them, and to have them to feel the energy coming off the stage of what we're doing. And hopefully, we're providing them with a really positive experience, musical experience, where they walk away and say, wow, that was something. And trust me, most people that walk away from one of our concerts are like, wow, that's pretty impressive. But as I said, we play very difficult music. And, it is a brass ensemble. And it's a brass ensemble that plays 40 minutes the first half, usually around 35 minutes, and 35 minutes the second half. And that's a lot for a brass player. So once in a while, there's a nick here and a nick there, because, brass players don't usually play full on for an hour and a half. So it's a very interesting experience. Why must they come? Well, nobody has to come, but we hope they'll come because it is a unique ensemble. It is a unique ensemble here in Southern California. We are now, I think, after 10 years, we can say we're established as a unique ensemble. The level of musicianship is very high, and we just play music that people enjoy hearing. That's one of our mottos. We play the music that you like to hear. It's not stuffy music. It's all stuff that's recognizable. A lot of our audience loves it because they always go to the concert and they hear themes and they hear tunes they know. And we throw in a few oddballs once in a while just to spice things up. But like this concert, 90% of the themes you hear on this concert, everybody's going to recognize. So that's why it's always an enjoyable thing, because you're always going to come and hear music that you know. So I think we hope that makes a connection to people in the audience. Oh, we're just thrilled to be here. We're still thrilled to be here. As many groups have experienced, the pandemic really did a number to many performance organizations. So what the Brass Consortium did was, we thought, in order to keep our faces alive and to keep things going, what we did was we did a series of virtual performances where we gave them a click track, and we had everybody go on home, put headphones on, and in one of their little rooms in their house, they recorded their part. And then what we did, we had engineers within the band. We were blessed to have those kind of engineers in our ensemble. They sewed them all together and made pieces out of them, where you see everybody in the little windows, and we all concealed them together, and we made one giant piece, everybody playing in their home. So nobody was in each other's room when they did it. So those proved very, very important to help SCBC weather the pandemic. We got a lot of really great feedback. We had a couple of shout outs on blogs, and I mean, it was a lot of work, but I think what it did was keep SCBC in the present during all that when no one else was performing. So if you go to our YouTube, we have 17 of those virtual videos that are up, and we even did one in collaboration with the Southern California Children's Chorale. So they're very well received, and we were very happy to be able to have the opportunity to make them. You can go to SoundCloud. I think we have over 300 recordings on SoundCloud that we have done. Most of them are live recordings from concerts, so you can go and hear what we've done in the past, all the way back. I think we have them back to 2014. So not everything we've played is on there, but the majority are. And on YouTube, I think I have no idea how many videos we have on YouTube, over 50. So you can watch us and see what we do. And we, we'll put a video clip in our advertisements when we send out emails, and we let people see who we are in case people don't know who we are. But yes, we also have a subgroup, the Southern California Brass Quintet, which goes around and plays mini concerts in churches and things and at events when they don't want to hire the giant group. Also, SCBC has been honored for the last few years to play at the Long Beach tree lighting ceremony, where we use about 15 or 16 members of the group, and we play at the tree lighting every year. We play about 20 minutes there. So we are out in the community. We are out supporting the community, and we hope the community will support us in return. Well, we are the Southern California Brass Consortium. We are Southern California's premier brass ensemble. We are here to provide great brass ensemble music and to get people fired up about the excitement of going to a brass concert. And we're all about community here. And any high school or middle-aged student gets into our concerts for free. So we just really would like everybody to come and support us and to keep this very unique ensemble going. You will never be disappointed if you go to a Brass Consortium concert. It's always very exciting.